ratification and entry into force of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Second, we will not develop new nuclear weapons. Our laboratory directors and a host of other outside technical reviews have been very clear that our life extension programs can maintain the safety, security, and effectiveness of the stockpile without testing. To accomplish that goal, the NPR makes it clear the United States will study options for ensuring the safety, security, and effectiveness of nuclear weapons on a case-by-case basis, consistent with congressionally mandated stockpile management program. The full range of life extension programs, approaches will be considered: refurbishment of existing warheads, reuse of nuclear components from different warheads, and the replacement of nuclear components. This NPR makes clear that the United States will only use nuclear components based on previously tested designs and will not support new nuclear missions or provide new nuclear capabilities. Finally, in any decision to proceed to the engineering development for warhead life extension programs, the United States will give strong preference to the options of refurbishment or reuse. This NPR makes clear that the replacement of nuclear components, as already said by Secretary Gates, would only be undertaken only if critical stockpile management program goals cannot otherwise be met and if specifically authorized by the President. These are the principles that define how we intend to implement the President's strong commitment to maintain the safety, security, and effectiveness of an aging stockpile. But this NPR does further than that. It provides an outline of the resources we will need to get the job done. The NPR calls for the modernization of nuclear weapons infrastructure and the sustainment of the science, technology, and engineering base which is required to support the full range of nuclear security missions. This is reflected in the President's budget request, which includes a 13.4% increase in the funding for the NNSA. This investment is critical to addressing our aging infrastructure, sustaining our deterrent, and enhancing our efforts against nuclear proliferation and terrorism. It will also allow the U.S. to reduce many non-deployed warheads currently kept as a technical hedge. The NPR notes the importance of recruiting and retaining the human capital needed in the DoD and DOE for the nuclear mission, and proposes building on current efforts. If we're going to succeed in our mission, we need to be able to recruit and retain the next generation of nuclear security professionals, because at the department, our people are our greatest asset. So I applaud the team that worked so hard over the last year to complete this review, and look forward to working with Secretary Gates, Secretary Clinton, Admiral Mullen, and of course the Congress to implement this in the coming years. Thank you very much, and I turn it over to Admiral Mullen.
Thank you. Thank you to Secretary Gates, Secretary Clinton, and Secretary Chu for your leadership in this tremendous effort, and also leading it in a way where the process was very collaborative and really a strength of the interagency, which produced a great product. The chiefs and I fully support the findings of this nuclear posture review because we believe it provides us and our field commanders the opportunity to better shape our nuclear weapons posture, policies, and force structure to meet an ever-changing security environment. We appreciated the opportunity to inform it and, quite frankly, to be informed by it as the process went forward. Even while it reduces the role played by nuclear weapons, a reduction I wholly endorse, this nuclear posture review reaffirms our commitment to defend the vital interests of the United States and those of our partners and allies, with a more balanced mix of nuclear and non-nuclear means than we have at our disposal today. Even while it retains the strategic triad of bombers, submarines, and missiles that have served us so well, the review further strengthens the United States command and control, works to prevent nuclear terrorism and proliferation, and suggests new dialogues through which to improve transparency with Russia and China. And even while it precludes nuclear testing and the development of new warheads, the review bolsters regional deterrence by fielding new missile defenses, improving counter WMD capabilities, and revitalizing our nuclear support infrastructure. As Secretary Gates made quite clear, we must invest more wisely and more generously to preserve the lifespan and the effectiveness of our existing arsenal. We must hold ourselves accountable to unimpeachably high standards of nuclear training, leadership, and management. And we must recruit and then retain the scientific expertise to advance our technological edge in nuclear weaponry. I'm encouraged to see these requirements so prominently addressed in the Nuclear Posture Review. But I'm also mindful of the challenge. Without such improvements, an aging nuclear force supported by a neglected infrastructure only invites enemy misbehavior and miscalculation. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, the review says that it's the administration's goal to create conditions for which, in which the only purpose of nuclear weapons would be to deter nuclear attack as opposed to other kinds of attacks. What will it take to get to that state, and why can't you go there now? And if I may ask a question of Secretary Clinton also, would you comment on Minister Lavrov's statement today in Moscow that Russia would reserve the right to withdraw from the New START treaty if it felt that the U.S. missile defense became a strategic threat to the Russian deterrent? And will the U.S. also have a unilateral statement about the treaty?
First, the NPR is very explicit in referring to the fundamental role of nuclear weapons being for deterrence. I know that there's been a lot of speculation outside the government, and there was a lot of discussion inside the government of how to frame that and how to describe it, whether it would be the sole purpose, whether we would forego first use, and so on. And I think that there was agreement within the administration that we didn't think we were far enough along the road toward getting control of nuclear weapons around the world to limit ourselves so explicitly. And so I think there was general agreement that the term fundamental purpose basically made clear, and other language makes clear, this is obviously a weapon of last resort, and we also are very explicit about that. So I think we recognize we need to make progress moving in the direction that the President has set, but we also recognize the real world we continue to live in. Secretary.
Well, Bob, I'm not aware of the statement, but it's no surprise that the Russians remain concerned about our missile defense program. We have persistently sought to explain to them the purpose for missile defense, the role that we believe it can and should play in preventing proliferation and nuclear terrorism. And we have consistently offered the Russians the opportunity to cooperate with us. The START Treaty is not about missile defense, as you know. It is about cutting the respective sizes of our arsenals, our strategic offensive weapons. And we will continue our conversations with the Russians. We have made it clear that we look forward to the ratification of START and then another round of discussions with the Russians about further reductions in our arsenal. And we will also be working with them to try to find common ground around missile defense, which we are committed to pursuing.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Tactical nuclear weapons have not yet been mentioned in your discussion today. What does the NPR say about American and Allied TAC nukes in Europe? What efforts are underway with the Allies to reduce them, and what will be required of the Russians as part of this process?
Well, first of all, the NPR is very explicit that any decision with respect to NATO's nuclear capabilities will be handled within NATO according to the consensus principle, and that as long as there are nuclear weapons that threaten NATO, NATO will need to maintain a nuclear capability. But this is clearly one of the issues that will be addressed in the strategic concept that NATO is undertaking, the revision of the strategic concept. I would say, and I would invite Secretary Clinton to comment, but basically I think what the NPR does is draw attention to the number of tactical nuclear weapons and also to the number of non-deployed weapons that we're looking at, and that these clearly should be part of the arms control agenda as we move forward.
Well, Bob is absolutely right. I mean, there is a section in the NPR, for those of you who haven't had a chance yet to review it, including a picture, might I add, of Sergei Lavrov. Yes, I hope you'll look at that. It's in there. Yes, page 19. And in the chapter called Strengthening Regional Deterrence and Reassuring U.S. Allies and Partners, we make it very clear that any changes in NATO's nuclear posture should only be taken after a thorough review within and decision by the alliance. And, those conversations have begun in connection with the new strategic concept that is being worked on, that hopefully will be ready for consensus discussion at the NATO conference